Hey there, good evening, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today we've got in the co-captain's chair, Mr. Nick Franco, Mr. Amorphis. What's going on? He's doing
How
good.
are you?
He's being quiet tonight. That's okay. Not for long, though, I bet. Nick has long been bugging me, and a lot of you viewers have been bugging me. Pete, we need to do an Amorphis Ranking the Studio Albums show. So when I finally said to Nick, you know what, I think I'm ready to do it. How about you? He's like, yeah, let's do it immediately. So here we are. So we've got 13, right? 13 studio releases in total. And you know how it goes, guys. We're going to rank them in the order we like them. We're going to start off at number 13, make our way to 1. We'll ping pong back and forth. I'm going to let Nick kick it off with his number 13.
All right. So bringing up the rear is Far From the Sun with a lot of glare on it. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, that was the last album they did with the vocalist Pasi Koskinen, and it just seemed like the least inspired. It had some good songs on it. Dave, Your Beliefs, Far From the Sun. It had some sneaky good songs, but it left the least impression on me.
Fair enough. I think I'm gonna piss off all the old time viewers right now, right from the get go. My number 13 is the debut. And you want to know why? I'll tell you why. And first of all, let me preface this by saying that these guys have never released a bad album. And this is a very difficult catalog to rank because the quality, I mean, you know probably better than me, Nick. You've been listening to these guys longer than I have. The quality, no matter who's singing, who's in the band, is absolutely top-notch. I will say, I jumped on to the Amorphis wagon probably in the middle of their career. So this one doesn't have as much meaning as it does to other people who, and quite frankly, this one is really different from this one and the next album are really different from everything else they've ever done. And while I love the early straight ahead death metal of this album, it's very good for what it is. It's kind of a lot of doomy riffing going on. It's got Warrior's Trail and Black Embrace and a bunch of other really cool tunes. I just don't have the connection with this album that I do with so many of their other ones. It's still really good. It's still really good. I know there's going to be people gonna be like, no, it's the best thing they ever did, or it's in the top 3 or whatever. I'm not going to argue it because, I get it. But for me, I just like most of their other albums better. It's just what it comes down to it, right? It's just, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's taste. And you tend to like more prog, more, metal stuff rather than like straight up death metal. Anyway, it kind of is in keeping with your tastes as I know them.
Yeah, true. Very true. Yep, very true.
It's all right. We'll let it go.
You'll forgive me, right?
Yeah. Okay. I will discuss that album a little more when we get to it. But my number 12 ranking here is Universum, which was the album right before Far From the Sun. They were trending in a more, like, I don't want to say prog direction because it wasn't, but it was more of a almost like I don't want to say the word hippie, but like it just seemed like it was just a more chill direction, and I think it was starting to get a little force around here. There are, however, some really redeeming good songs on it, whose titles will, of course, escape me. Alone was very good, and I think Drifting Memories is on here. Excellent tunes, but overall, just a couple of duds on it, but just a little bit less sucky than Far From the Sun.
well, don't put that away because that's actually my number 12 as well.
All right.
I think that album's pretty controversial to a lot of fans, and it's not terrible by any means. It's got some good songs on it. It's kind of like this very accessible hard rock. It's almost like they're trying to go for like an Anathema sort of sound. Anathema was really changing their sound right around that time too. Yeah. A lot of hooks, a lot of keyboard textures. I think Posse sounds great on it, doing that sort of thing. Alone is a great song. Night Is Over, I like. Shatters Within. I think it's a solid record, but it's just, I don't know how much like Amorphis it really sounds, but I can appreciate them doing something a little bit different.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I'm judging this catalog against itself. In the grander scheme of things, it's still, like you said, it's still a quality album. I've actually come to appreciate those albums more than I did at the time. I was a little more, disappointed at the time, but since their career has taken off in a new direction, I'm a little bit better with those records. So my number 11, I have the vinyl here. Even though I really like it, again, comparing the catalog against itself, Circle comes in next for me. The songs on it that are good are great, like Hopeless Days. Like the first half of the record is stronger, but it kind of tails off toward the end. And as we have discussed in our other Amorphis videos, they used Peter Tatchagin as the producer. He is a very accomplished and strong-willed individual, and I love a lot of what he has done, but I feel like this was a Peter Tatchagin Amorphis record and not so much an Amorphis record. So that's why it's a little lower for me.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, I totally kind of get that. And I think like my number, what are we up to? Number 11, right? So my number 11 is The Beginning of Times from 2011, which I think I kind of feel the same way like you do about Circle. I think it's got some excellent songs on it. For me, this might be, and weak is not a good word, but it's probably like my least favorite of all of the Tommy albums, okay, Tommy albums. Still really good, though. I think Battle for Light, Songs of the Sage, UI Need, all really strong songs. It's got all the elements that I love about all the latter period Amorphis albums. Maybe just not quite as memorable as some of the albums that kind of came before it and after it, but still really damn good. It's like, it's funny because I think when I originally reviewed this album, I gave it like a 4 out of 5 or 4.5 out of 5 stars. So it's, when you think about it, the fact that it's coming in at number 11 just shows you the quality, the high quality of this catalog. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. There are no bad albums here at all.
You're right. Yeah, Circle was the first album I ever reviewed, and I gave it a very good review. So you're right. Like, again, when you're just looking at them by themselves, they're very, very high quality. And from interviewing them, they said at the beginning of times, they felt like they needed a shakeup. They were sort of running out of inspiration. So it does keep with that. My number 10 on the list is Tuanella, which was their fourth album. And it was kind of, followed on the success of Elegy and Tales, and I think they were feeling a little pressure. They tried to do something a little different, some saxophone, some of those more keyboard elements. But again, it's really good. The way, the title track, Greed, Divinity, and the beautiful, tragic Summer's End, the ballad at the end, Summer's End. What a song. Holds up to this day. It got people were a little upset with the melodic direction they took, but I think the benefit of time has shown us that this was actually a very good album. But in their discography, it comes in 10th for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I hear you. All right, so my number 10, Far From the Sun from 2003, which you've already shown.
Yeah.
A good melodic hard rock album. It's got plenty. This is one of the first albums that I started getting into when it came to these guys. It's, got a lot of that Deep Purple Hammond organ stuff going on, right? Which you kind of like. Evil Inside, the title track, Morning Soil, Killing Goodness. It's just to me, it's just a very accessible melodic hard rock album. And, maybe, the original Amorphis fans, like you said, probably a little turned off by this album and the couple before it, but it's one I came on board pretty much, and I still have a fond place in my heart for it. I dig it.
It's grown on me. And when I was thinking about and doing this list in the previous week or whatever, I was listening to it again, and I was like, I like this a little more than I did years ago.
Yeah.
So
it's almost kind of like a different band, though, isn't it? In a way, it's almost like this band has like 3 parts of their history. It's like the early stuff, the middle period, and the latter period, and all 3 are very different from each other, but there's similarities, right?
Yeah. The guitarist, Sorry, and Asa Holopainen have been the thread through it. Jan Reckberger, the drummer. Some band members have left and come back to the fold, like their bass player, Oli-Pekka Laine. And but yeah, they've had some different members come in. They've always tried to keep things fresh, and they've mostly succeeded. Which brings me to number 9, which is the one you mentioned earlier, The Beginning of Times. Little higher for me because some of the deeper tracks, On a Stranded Shore, Escape, and Reformation, yeah, those songs are, never really mentioned. Probably they don't play them live. I found them to be some of the best they've written. I love them a lot. And Mermaid, the second song, is just a fantastic song.
Yeah, Mermaid's great.
But in the placing of their albums since they got Tommy, yeah, it was starting. There was a little bit of a back off in the magic, so I think they wanted to shake it up. But really good album. That's my number 9.
All right, my number 9 again. Gonna piss off the purists, but Tales from a Thousand Lakes from 1994. I know Nick is like, you got to be kidding me.
No.
Again, a fine album for what it is. I like this album. I happen to like a lot of their later catalog a lot better. It's what it comes down to. It's doomy death metal. It's got lots of prog and folk on this album. You know what it is? I think the first 2 albums, and the EPs and what have you, they're just not as refined as the band would become, and they're not quite as melodic. But the raw nature of this album is very appealing. I remember the first time I heard this album, I was like, whoa. It's like, listen to that, right? Black Winter's Day, First Doom, Into Hiding, Drown Maid, In the Beginning, To Father's Cabin. I mean, these are all terrific songs. The album cover art is amazing. I always love the mysterious kind of black and white photo of the band on the back. I dig it. Like I said, there's no bad albums in this catalog. I just happen to like a whole handful of albums just a little bit better. I mean, most of these albums are not separated by much of anything. That's the thing. So, for everybody who's watching, who's a huge Amorphis fan and loves and worships the ground that this album walks on, I don't hate it at all. I like it a lot. I just like others better. That's all. So
that's good, and that's absolutely fine. Yeah, and I'll absolutely. So my next choice for number 8 is probably going to upset anybody named Pete Pardo, because it's Eclipse. I'm sorry, I have so much glare. Again, this is right in the middle almost, of their pack, and the songs on here that I love, I truly love. Under a Soil and Black Stone, House Sleeps, they're like it's become their Run to the Hills, that they play all the time. Brother Moon, and bonus tracks, which we will talk about. Amorphis has better bonus tracks than anybody I know. Stone Woman, oh my God,
great.
What a great rock classic, just unbelievable. Nothing Bad on here. It was a nice, refreshing kick in the butt after, they petered out with Koskinen. But, again, like you said, there's other ones that affected me personally more. This is a fine album. It comes in at number 8 for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the album that made me a big fan. And I love it. How does it say his name? Tommy or Tommy?
I call him Tommy, but it's probably Tommy.
Okay, I always call So, I mean, he's just a fantastic, fantastic singer.
He's become, and he's just improved with every album.
Yeah, what I love about him is he has brought the early death metal leanings of the band and that kind of mid-period, more melodic hard rock period together, and he can do both styles really well. And I love him for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So my number 8 is Skyforger. 2009. Very strong record. Lot of memorable songs on here. And again, this is a run where just, I got to a point, because I reviewed every one of these albums, from Far From the Sun till the most recent one. And it gets to a point where, like, what more can you say in every review, right? When every single album is of consistent high quality, there's a similar feel to all the albums. And it's just like, it gets to the point, it's like, all right, it's 4.5 out of 5 stars or a 5-star record. There you go, done. Silver Bride, Sky Is Mine, Majestic Beast, which kind of reminds me of Opeth a little bit. So many great songs on here. You just can't go wrong with this album. And then, of course, you got Godlike Machine, that wonderful bonus track, which kicks complete ass. So, I mean, it's a great album. Great album.
It sure is. Which takes me to what, 7?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go through my pile of goodies here. And for me, number 7 is the old one, Carillion Isthmus. That album, and they were in, I mean, they dropped out of high school to start this band, so they were really young. That one also has grown on me with time. I think in the beginning it was more like, okay, this is more, death metal, but I think the album has revealed its subtleties over time. I've listened to it a lot lately, and for all that it was straight ahead death with the double bass and the typical, you could tell, first of all, that they were going to stretch themselves into something else. And I found that the songs really have a beauty, like very melodic nature. And, yes, primitive. Yes, even the production values were a little bit, less compared to what they did. Oof, I love it. I think it really stood the test of time as well.
I've always thought that this band, especially kind of early on, the way they started and what they kind of morphed into, I know you're not a huge fan, but remind me of Opeth's trajectory a lot. Not that they really sound a lot alike, but I think both bands started from that very savage kind of death metal beginning and then started to incorporate the prog and the folk in kind of little different directions, but not that different, right? All the subtleties and the melodic nature of the music. And that's one of the reasons why I like both these bands so much, because they're so, in a weird way, they're very, very similar. Again, not that they sound alike, but they use a lot of similar elements in different ways, which I find. And I think that their careers have kind of progressed. They've morphed from one style of music into, other areas, into prog and folk and hard rock and all that sort of thing. And kind of cool to be following both these bands for so long and to kind of see them kind of grow and mature. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's actually a really good comparison, because they were both bands whose trajectory began with death metal. And both bands early on said, we don't want to just be painted into this corner. Like, I know that about Amorphis. They said right away they wanted to make their own mark. So that's an excellent point. Yeah. Brings us to what, number 6 for me?
Number 7. Let me throw out my number 7 here quick. Yeah, I've been talking too much. It's like all right, Silent Waters from 2007.
Too much caffeine.
Another fine album. And one of the things we haven't brought up, man, these album covers are great.
Great art.
Right? On all of them, even the ones that are not like, these cool paintings and drawings. I mean, just the designs are fantastic. And I always love this one a lot. And I wanted to bring The Beginning of Times is a fantastic album cover too. I didn't mention that before. This has got another in a strong line of great songs. And great that just the album is just so strong. Weaving the Incantation, a servant. Sorry, got excellent clean and death metal growls, and I love the fact when he goes back and forth within the same song. I think that's amazing. Enigma is really folky. The White Swan is another great song. Just every song has that epic feel. It's top to bottom, just amazing. And then how about Sign, that bonus track?
Unbelievable,
right?
Love it so much. Great call. Okay, now number 6. Which was, you just mentioned, Skyforger. It's very difficult to find any fault with this album. Beautiful melodic title track. Sampo, that opener, which I think you was in one of your top songs when we did that. Sampo is just wonderful with the driving piano, in it. Silver Bride, forget it. Melodic, just mastery. The ballad of From the Heaven of My Heart is more like a ballad. And Sky Is Mine is, and I've said this a lot on your show, like I not crazy about happy music, but Amorphis gives me that adrenaline rush, happy feeling, and without being like cheesy. And Sky Is Mine may be one of the most positive songs I've ever heard in my life. Ugh, everything great.
Yeah, they've had a weird way of incorporating. You talk about the happy music. And I agree with you a lot too, because like one of the reasons I think why I have not fully embraced a lot of power metal bands is it's just a little too happy-go-lucky type stuff, right? And I can appreciate that every now and then, but there are certain bands that do so much of that I'm like, oh, I can't take more than a song or two. I think Amorphis does a little bit of that every now and then, but just enough, right? Not to make it not overly noticeable. So that's a really good point. Really good point. All right, my number 6. Let's see, where are we? 2015, Under the Red Cloud. Fantastic. Fantastic. Another, and I always love this album cover. This is that, I forget the guy's name. This guy has worked on album covers for a lot of cool extreme bands and heavy metal bands, whatever his name is.
Brilliant.
Yeah. What is that guy's name? I forget. Anyway, but Animate the Gates, Dark Path, Death of the King, all just fantastic stuff. Winter's Sleep, Come the Spring. I mean, just...
Oh, dude, that's it. Yeah, that's another bonus track.
Yeah, it's right. I'm telling you. It's like, I think they just want people like us talking about their bonus tracks. They're not really bonus tracks. They're just like, it was always meant to be on the album, but we'll put a little bonus track next to it so people talk about how we have the coolest bonus tracks in metal, right?
I've had a number of drunken nights with these guys, and I know I've busted their balls about like, what is with the bonus tracks, but I can't remember what they said. But,
they probably started talking in Finnish to you. That's why you don't remember, right?
They're so great. And their keyboard player, Santeri Kallio, is one of the funniest people on the face of the earth.
Really?
Yeah, and then you know what I told him? I said, whatever you do, don't stop making keyboard solos. And he was like, oh, whatever, you know. But like, they make great keyboard solos.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Okay, number 5.
Number 5.
Right there with you, buddy.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's what not much more I could say that you haven't already said. An unbelievable title track. There's nothing bad, nothing even. It just keeps up its pace the whole time. It's so good. And Come the Spring is another one of those songs. And what I have here is I'll actually attach to it, An Evening with Friends at Huvula. Have you heard that? When you get a minute, listen to that. It's not acoustic, but it's like a stripped down live set of chill songs with Tommy on vocals, and they do Far From the Sun, The Wanderer, and let me tell you, you're gonna love it because it's Tommy at his most melodic. Beautiful.
So that's what, a special edition double disc set? Yeah.
Yeah, I have the regular one, and then I bought this one with the special CD on it. It's beautiful. You can see it on YouTube. It's great.
Damn, Nuclear Blast always does that to me.
Yeah, thank you, Nuclear Blast.
God. All right, my number 5, 1999's Tuanella. I like that album a lot, actually. And it might be their most melodic album, though it's still pretty heavy, but I would say it's more hard rock heavy than metal heavy. It's got a lot of prog and folk on it. The title track kicks ass. The Way is a great tune, and I love Summer's End.
Oh,
so good. Divinity is another great song. I just, and I don't know, I never owned that on CD for whatever reason. I need to fix that. But yeah, just a great album. And I think out of all of their kind of like, you know, when they started to get more melodic, that kind of like mid-period, I think that's easily my favorite.
Yes. I like it more and more as time goes on. So now we're into my number 4. I'm going to go right to Queen of Time, their most recent album. Same artist as Red Cloud, I believe.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, Queen of Time. I have no problem putting that in the top 5. It's my number 4. One of the most melodic parts are some of the best melodies they've come up with, and choruses like the Golden Elk, Heart of the Giant, Wrong Direction. These are anthems that you just sing over and over and over again. The Bee is such a progressive, like, just piece. We Accursed. And then again with the bonus tracks, Brother and Sister, one of the 5 in my top like 3 songs. Like, I just can't believe they're this damn good.
Yeah, it's a great album. In fact, when we did that Amorphis Top 10 show with Steve Keeler, I mean, I think we were all still like gushing about that album because at the time it was still fairly new, you know, for the most part. And I think all of us picked at least 1 or 2 songs from that album in our top 10. That just goes to show you how strong it is, right?
So strong, so good, great production. They use these, I don't know if it's children or young girls or whatever, but a chorus of like voices in the background. And like, you might be like, oh my God, are we going to get into like, really like melodic power metal territory? But they do it beautifully, where it's just accenting the song. It's not like taking it over. Magnificent.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. Great stuff. All right, number 4, 2013 Circle. Yes. A little bit higher than yours. To me, it's just another fantastic release from them. And I think for me, for me, this was like I said, I don't want it to make it seem like I was disappointed with the beginning of Times, but I thought that's probably the album from the Tommy Johnson era that I probably enjoy the least, even though I still love it. I thought this was a really good kind of comeback that, okay, Amorphis is back at tip top shape. It's just classy. It's melodic. It's, it's just progressive metal the way Amorphis know how to do it. Shades of Grey, Mission, Hopeless Days, Into the Abyss, some of my favorite tracks on the album. Another really cool album cover.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Shades of Grey, phenomenal chorus. But they felt the way you did. They wanted a kick in the pants, and when they made Circle. So absolutely. All right, top three.
Top three.
Here's my pile of albums. I need an assistant to hand me things. So my number 3 overall record, one you've mentioned, Silent Waters. I loved it immediately. The entire thing just absolutely kills. Not a weak moment on it. And I remember at the time, doing laundry in a laundromat. My first house, and I was in the laundromat listening to it. I remember, in that moment when it just connects, and I was like, oh, this is so good, and it has stayed every bit as good. Top 3 album. Love it. It was when they really, I think with that lineup with Tommy, it was like they hit their stride to me. Like this was, mwah. So there it is, Silent Waters.
And their stuff is so memorable, so hummable, so singable, yet it's just so headbanging at the same time, right?
Yes.
Yep. All right, my number 3. Let's go to their third album, Elegy from 1996. So for me, this is where they kind of really, I think they were starting to do it a little bit on Tales from a Thousand Lakes, but I think it was with this album where they really figured out, okay, we'll still keep some of the death metal influence here, but we're a progressive band now. We love doing folk. We really want a lot of melody in our music. I mean, there's like swirling melodies all over this album. Better on Born Against Windows, The Orphan, keyboard solos and guitar solos all over the place on here, blazing folk metal of Rich and Poor, just epic arrangements all over the place. Just a great album. Cares is a great song. The title track, a lot of great keyboards on this album. This might actually be their greatest keyboard album.
Yeah.
Or close to it, I think. But just a masterful classic of a record.
I could not agree more, because my number 2 is Elegy. And this is an original pressing that I got.
Very cool.
That lineup that made that album never made another Amorphis album. It was I think the keyboard player who never, I think that was the only one he appeared on. So it was interesting that was, the case, that it was a unique lineup. It's also the album where they switched their logo to what it is today. From and
that's right.
You remember that used to happen quite a bit, and it was always like, did it presage a change toward the weaker material? But as you said, the Elegy is just the finest thing I've ever heard in my life. The Orphan, the ones you mentioned, all of them. The solo and Mike Cantley.
Mike Cantley is great. Yeah, absolutely.
On the shore, and they had begun on Tales from the Thousand Lakes to use traditional lyrics from the Kalevala and the Kanteletar, which is traditional Finnish poetry. And I think that was, and they do it to this day. They have a lyric writer, and their lyrics are so good. I think partly because they have somebody with a masterful literary capability. It's like there's nothing awkward in the phrasing of their lyrics. And I think that really helps, and they really did that a lot. The whole album is traditional lyrics.
Yep.
So, Elegy number 2.
Cool. And back to the logo. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's very underground.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that the one that they eventually went with and they still use is kind of classy, and it's memorable. It strikes you. So, all right, my number 2, Queen of Time from 2018. I love this album. Played this to death when this came out. It just continues a great run of albums. The Bee, Message in the Amber, Daughter of Hate. The whole album is catchy, progressive. but with just enough extreme metal ferocity, which is what I've loved so much about Eclipse and onwards. It's like, it's melodic, it's extreme, it's progressive, it's folky. It's all of these things that they just do so well. And I think that album is just, how are they going to top that one?
Absolutely.
I don't know. Don't know. They just keep doing it though, right?
Yeah, I know. I said it about Silent Waters. I said it about Under the Red Cloud. So far they've been, yeah. So where are we?
Number one.
Numero uno. I think we can tell by default and by what I'm wearing.
Yep.
Yeah, Tales, Thousand Lakes, which I first heard in like '95, and there was definitely that I've never heard anything like this before element to it. And what can you say is the traditional lyrics. Yeah, it was that mix of doomy guitar and moody keyboard solos and or keyboard backgrounds and uniqueness to the songs that I think they were one of the first bands to stumble into folk metal, but not in the cheesy, not in like the accordions and campfire folk metal, but like, I think they were, they're probably, if somebody will correct me and say there was something older, but they were one of the first bands to do that. And, it's just, to me, it is the encapsulation of Amorphis, what they were and what they were going to be. It's right there in the middle. And it's the best Amorphis album for me, pretty consistently my favorite.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amorphis is definitely not a Corpiclani type band.
No. We have a few of those, and that's okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, everybody knows what my number one is. Nick, I'm sure, knew going in, but Eclipse from 2006 is my absolute favorite Amorphis album. I was listening to them before this came out, but this is the album that made me a really big fan. And I think that this signaled a chapter in their career that I've really fallen in love with, and they just do not disappoint. I mean, it's catchy, loaded with hooks, it's progressive, it's got just enough of that death metal influence going on. It's just, you got the new singer, Tommy's in the band, he's kicking ass. His clean vocals are just as amazing as his growls. For me, this album, I don't know, you might agree, it was just, the first time you heard it, it was so immediate. Like, every song I was like, just so memorable. And like within like an hour after playing this, I was already hearing a lot of those melodies in my head and just wanting to get more. House Asleep, Leave Scar, Born from Fire. I mean, the keyboards on the Smoke, Empty Opening, Stone Woman, Perkley, the God of Fire, which absolutely crushes and has some of his best growls on the album, Brother Moon. I mean, just, man. Yeah. Stone Woman, of course, like I already mentioned, was just fantastic. I love this album, and I went and played it again the other day, and I'm like, yeah, I'd love it just as much as I did all those years ago, which is 14 years ago. It's like 14 years ago.
Yeah, Brother Moon, again, is one of those, like, really charged up songs. It fills you up, like, gifts that keeps on giving.
Yeah. And there's this little element of like traditional Finnish folk music, which kind of runs through a lot of the melodies, even though the album is very heavy. And I kind of like that, almost for those who are not familiar with Finnish folk music, it's kind of like their version of like kind of like Celtic music. And it's kind of, you get that kind of feel, like kind of floating throughout all these songs in a way. But what a great catalog, right? I mean,
yeah, and I can look back and say with certainty that, Iron Maiden will always be my favorite band, but they are right there in second place. So if you take all the other bands besides the iconic ones, they are my favorite band. Discovered in '95. I think my friend had Tales from the Thousand Lakes and the Privilege of Evil EP, which was really grind, their first EP. And yeah, they have implanted themselves into my top. I love them so much. Yeah.
And a great live band too.
Yeah. I've seen, I think now, maybe as much as Iron Maiden, definitely maybe almost 20 times I've seen them live.
Well, that's a lot. Well, you've gone to see them like overseas quite a bit too, right? Because they don't come here that often.
Yes. They didn't come here for years.
Yeah.
And then I remember him telling me they were getting a different, what do they call that person? Not a publicist, a manager. And they began coming over a lot. And I think they were supposed to come over next month. But
supposed to.
Yeah, again. So we really, thanks COVID, thanks a lot, buddy. But hopefully when things normalize, they will pick up where they left off, and regale us some more, I
There
hope.
you go.
Yeah.
Very cool. So there you have it, ranking the 13 albums of Amorphis from Nick Franco and myself. You know the drill, guys and gals watching. Rank them as you like them in the comments below. Be curious to see how everybody looks at this catalog, because as you can see by Nick and myself, we kind of both view this catalog a little bit differently, but we both agree that all these albums are great, and it's just a matter of where you kind of place them. And quite frankly, if you were going to ask me again a couple months from now about this ranking, I might even change it a little bit depending on, you know, what's kind of hitting me a little bit better at the time. So who knows? But it's all good. Not a bad album in the bunch. And so, you know, any which way you look at it, you got good stuff. And for those of you who are new to Amorphis, and because I get this all the time, people, you know, they're not familiar with a catalog or a band. They're like, well, what are like the top three that I should get right off the bat? I would say check out Nick's #1 pick. Check out my #1 pick, because that's, you have like both ends of the spectrum. See what you think. Maybe throw Tuanella in there, so you got one from each era. So Eclipse, Tales from a Thousand Lakes, Tuanella. There you got a little bit of all three eras. See which one you like best. That's the best way to do it, I think.
Like we were saying with Halloween, you know, three vocalists, like Sabbath, 3 vocalists, Amorphis, 3 vocalists in their whole era.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
So cool. So there you have it, little Amorphis. So Nick's coming back in a couple of weeks. We, I think, are working on Enslaved next, if I am not mistaken. And I don't think we've talked about this, Nick, but if you're interested, how about some Emperor at some point?
Yes.
We've had requests for Emperor and Mayhem. So
down for it all. You know, that's
okay. So there you go. Nick is my extreme metal right hand over here. So you know, I can always count on him. So there we go. And I think there was another band we were talking about too, and I can't think of what the other one was.
It was in our messages. Yeah, I have to look.
Yeah, well, we'll keep that as a surprise for everybody. So, but Enslave will be next. Look for that in probably roughly about 2 weeks. And while you're waiting, visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. So I'm going to let you say it next time. So there you go. You were right there with me. So all right, everybody, have a good night. For Nick Franco, I am Pete Pardo. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye-bye.